Hi, I'm Mark Unger, producer of Roundtable. Because we find this presentation so special, we really would like for you to see this. Please watch.
Hello, welcome to Single Shot at Roundtable with Manhattan Neighborhood Network. Today we managed to get a very special person to talk to us, our own New York marvelous photographer living now in Portugal, who visited for 3 days to speak on his exhibition at MoMA, Marcus Leatherdale. Thank you very much, Marcus, for joining us. You one of the people I personally admire as a photographer, and I do believe that your art, along with several other great photographers, shaped what we call modern photography today, and it's my personal honor to ask you a few questions about it. Basically, as I understand, you at this point only visiting New York. You most of the time you spend in Europe, and based on that and on your experience, you probably see the picture of what is happening with photography very clearly. Looking from a distance always helps.
Yeah, certainly it's more objective now. Mm-hmm. It's the 21st century New York, which is quite actually alien to me compared to the 20th century New York that I functioned in. Because I pretty much left at the end of the 20th century, the 90s. Digital came into play, and that basically became like an instant photography. It was, you don't necessarily need to master your craft. Now you can just Photoshop and fix it. So that's one of the very big differences. I learned photography in California, San Francisco Art Institute, that was started by Ansel Adams, which was the gray zone. That was all too. That I really wanted to get away from. I was not interested in reportage and like Vinegrand and Freelander and all that. I really wanted to have more control. So I was very interested in studio photography, which they were not interested in. So I had to come to New York for that. So I like to be in the studio because I like to create a situation, and I have a concept, and then I let things channel and happen. So I do believe in the perfect moment, but I sort of like to create where that perfect moment is going to present itself.
Well, my personal impression that's exactly what was happening when your career was shaping up. The photographic world started to understand that they are not there to just capture the moment and archive it. They actually there to create and shape it, and I do believe that your work was part of what actually told the world that this is exactly the direction that photography should have.
But at the same time, it was archiving an era that was actually, in many cases, extinct now, which is why I'm in the show at the moment right now, to express what happened 37 years ago that no longer exists. The whole post-punk, new wave era. Of course, we didn't think of it that way. We just thought we were 20-something and going to be, young forever. I didn't think I was archiving, but regardless of where you point your camera, it does crystallize a moment, and then time moves on, and then you can look back at it and have your opinion on what that was. So everything, photography can't help but archive. But I agree with you. I think that I wasn't just capturing the moment on the street as someone walks by. Reportage, and I appreciated it. I like Lartigue, and there were certain photographers I could appreciate, but it was never mine. I never wanted to be that, or a journalist, or a paparazzi. I really wanted to have a controlled studio situation, almost like a still movies. Mm-hmm. And, I would have concepts, and I would almost direct people into roles that I knew that they already were, and I would just bring it out. And then, like so many portrait photographers were doing at that time. I certainly was not alone.
So tell me if I understood right, it also was changing the perspective of dynamism and photography. From what you just said, I understand that it was creating the prolonged story in a shot instead of creating just one instance. It was creating the pretext, putting it inside of the shot.
It could be. It could be. I try to simplify everything as much as possible. So I quite often would hear people telling me what I was doing. Oh, you did this and you did that, and what's all this about? I mean, I don't know. I just sort of set it up, and I just sort of things just channel into place. And sometimes I can't even tell why I did it or what was the whole reason behind it. Even so, it was never that calculated.
Well, photography is not an exact science.
No, but I mean, I didn't have that much. I didn't really have too much of a preconceived idea. My so-called ideas were just springboards for whatever would happen. And quite often it ended up being something entirely different, a U-turn even from what I thought it was going to be. So it's interesting, but I did like a controlled environment. I still do. Even in India, when I go into a village in the middle of nowhere, I will still set up an outdoor studio.
So basically premeditated improvisation.
Yes, yes. And then we see what happens.
That sounds very interesting. It's actually a concept that I didn't even know possible to achieve, but I totally...
I'm not very much about... I don't tell people so much, move your head this way, do this, do that. I know. I actually just shoot enough films so that people will do it naturally. So I'm not one that's very particular, unless it's really off, unless you just really know it's not going to work. I really will just keep shooting until it works. Which in some ways would be great for digital because it costs a fortune to film back then.
Oh, absolutely.
I would shoot like hundreds of exposures just to get one image. And plus I had to develop every one of those. So in that way, it's a lot easier in photography these days and a lot cheaper.
Absolutely. It's definitely became to be more accessible, and probably because of that the whole direction photography is taking is in need of yet another step, modifying how we perceive the role of photography, its purpose and approach to it.
Yeah, actually it turned me off, actually. I haven't taken pictures for a few years, partially because I'm not averse to the whole digital world, and I realize it has a place, and that's the way it is, but I find it very too instant. I mean, I don't see the craft there anywhere near. I think it's a lot of very opportunistic. I'm going to be a DJ, I'm going to be a photographer, it's not something that takes a lot of dedication.
Maybe looking for something to emerge.
And that's what I see when I go to see photo shows. I see nothing. I just see oversized postcards that have been laminated onto huge pieces of aluminum, and all of a sudden they're worth fortune. I don't get it. But that's just me personally. I'm old school.
Well, that's definitely the truth of the modern photography.
And I'm sticking to it because I hear now people are telling me that work in universities that the students are asking for darkrooms to be brought back in that were pulled out, and they're understanding that there is more to photography than, oh, don't worry about the lighting, don't worry about this, we'll fix it later on Photoshop. That they want to get it right from the start because they're crafted to do that, not we'll fix it later with technology.
No, it's definitely one of the trends that we're witnessing happening right now.
And iPhones. Everybody has an iPhone. They think they're photographers.
That's a completely
that's
new
Instagram
medium.
But that's Instagram, It's like everybody's a photographer.
It's something different. It's right now in its baby steps, and who knows where it will grow.
Sure. Oh no. I'm not judging it. But that's my observation. Is that I also live in the country where I don't have people sticking their iPhones in my face taking selfies all the time.
You didn't go global yet? I thought it's all around the world.
Yes, if I'm in Lisbon, but but outside in the country of Lisbon, I'm more apt to see someone with 4 goats than I am someone with a smartphone.
Well, makes sense, of course. I didn't know that those corners are still in existence.
In India, actually, in India, it's hopeless. They all have smartphones.
I think they have more per capita than in Europe, actually.
It used to be that everybody wanted me to take a picture of them because they couldn't afford the camera. And then if they had the camera, they couldn't afford the film. And then if they had the film, they couldn't afford to what they call clean it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but now everybody in India, of course, has a phone because ground lines are impossible to get.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody who never had a phone now has a phone and a camera. So now they're taking pictures of me all the time when I go for walks in India, not the other way around.
Oh, that's an interesting change as well.
Very interesting. I'm mobbed by people taking selfies.
No, but people taking
Selfies. I remember I used to take 1 to 2 self-portraits every year, and it was something that was very much a part of what I did, you know. But this whole self-obsessed selfie thing that's another. I don't know where that's going, but it seems very self-indulgent.
Well, for me, it's very hard to see that to be a new artistic trend.
I don't think it's a trend. I think it's just self-obsessed insecurity and neuroses.
No,
How many likes can I get? Maybe if I put this up on Instagram and someone likes it 100 times, I'll feel loved.
No, that's actually another thing that happened to photography. It's
Yes.
not anymore measured in
No, it's
the
not.
original.
No, it's pedestrianized. That's what I mean by pedestrianized. It's no longer just a very serious art form. Like, it took me literally, I would say 5 years before I could actually print what I consider a great print. You know, like, I'm considered a master printer now, and it didn't happen overnight. You know, it took years and years to get the right exposure, and I don't use filters. Like, if I take a picture, and if it's not right, I'll reshoot it. I don't play around with changing even the grade of paper. I use only number 2. I only use a certain kind of film, and it has to be right. I don't even fix it in the dark.
I wouldn't be asking for the particulars, but just for my curiosity, at least what direction of film, what brand is your brand?
Oh, I use Ilford or Kodak, but Tri-X 400 because I like the grain, because I don't like a photograph to look perfect.
During the break, you was mentioning that tomorrow you will be speaking for an hour. And as I understand, that's in the exhibition of at MoMA Museum.
Yes, well, it'll be quite simple because I will actually be projecting images. So each image will activate a whole set of ideas and thoughts and memory, rather than just talking blankly for an hour. You know? So I'll just be talking about 35 images, so it shouldn't be too hard to, you know, chat it up.
Oh, this lecture.
Except that 37 years ago I took these pictures and they were basically dragged out of the archives, dusted off and into the light of the 21st century. And a lot of these images I had not seen in ages, so it's not that I forgot about them, it's just that I forgot to remember them.
No.
So it's going to be memory lane for me too.
Definitely sounds like
Images that I took just after I came out of art school.
So, any specific thing you're planning to discuss tomorrow? Or
Well, I'll talk about, each image, but I'll also talk about where these people are now, where they were, what their dreams were, what their aspirations, how New York was at the time, how fragile it was in terms of AIDS and drugs, and how many people succumbed. And it'll be a memorial on some levels. And it will be about my moment in time there, because people that are coming, quite often, again, the photograph, what it does, it crystallizes the moment, and then the moment moves on in time. And then 37 years later, you've got people at the MoMA wanting to know about what was it like living in that moment. So in a way, I'll be talking about what happened to make that photograph happen, or how I met those people, so it'll be more of an anthropological kind of approach, not just f-stops and what they were wearing or lighting. In fact, there won't be any technical stuff talked at all.
This is actually.
I assume it better turn off because it'll go down in history, because it's being filmed for the archives of the MoMA. So if I screw up, it's there. I can't pretend it never happened.
Well, you definitely don't. Each of your images is a gem. And
No, I think it'll be interesting for me too, because as I said, I would say 3/4 of these images I haven't seen or even thought about in 25 years. They're being brought out because it was the first show I ever did, and it just happened to be at Club 57, which is what this exhibition is about. Otherwise, I wouldn't be in this exhibit. It's not about the best work or by any means. It's just depicting that era. So it's a form of archiving.
Oh, This is indeed interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting for me too. It's interesting for me too. You know,
Yeah, and speaking about it being so long time ago, I know that after you finished this part of your photographic experience, photography in New York, you paid a lot of attention to one specific country, India,
yes.
and you did quite a remarkable job.
That's currently what I still do. I just change tribes.
Oh, you don't change tribe.
Basically, I went from like the whole downtown urban tribe of New York. But at least now I know that what I'm photographing is going extinct. I'm actually photographing the tribes of India because I know they are going extinct. So I actually know in this case it's not just about the moment. I am more aware of where the work will go, whereas I didn't before. So historically I'm in a different place. And I've been taking photographs in India since the mid-90s. And I still do. And I'm also thinking of focusing on the Mayan Indians in Mexico as well. That's my next possibility, because India is getting very exhausting for me.
And just in practical sense.
You know, physically. I go there, I lose weight, I get malaria, I get worn out. It's not, and I'm getting older. 65 years old now. It was fine when I was 50, but now, because I have to go over a hill and dale and cross rivers and break my axle to get into, villages that are not, involved in the global village world, trying to get them as authentic as possible. And it's very tiring. It's very hot and exhausting. And, you come into villages with people up in trees with bows and arrows pointed at you, and it's all very exciting. It's exciting, but I think it's less exciting now for me.
This question is why out of all the countries of the world, out of all the cultures of the world, India?
I went there when I was 21, and I was accidentally. Didn't mean to. I just ended up in a van full of hippies from Amsterdam that were going across country from Turkey. And I liked it so much, I thought I would go back. And then I came back, and I thought, in New York, I don't have to create drama in India like I have to in New York. It's so dramatic, and the people are they externalize their feelings so without having to be manipulated in any way, and it's just an incredible country where the history is living. It's not past, you don't have to look for it, it's right there. And it's just an extraordinary country for portraits. I've never been in a country where people just stand there being as outrageous as they are with no excuses. This is just who I am, and they don't know how to be anything else. And I love that veneer that's not really there.
Your work is definitely testament to everything you.
And also, I was very intrigued by the Raj 1800s, when the British took photographs, but they seemed like specimen shots. I liked them, but I didn't feel like they were connected. I truly feel that the people I photograph, I connect with them. I care about them as people, and I think that's the difference between they're not specimen shots.
Absolutely.
I'm photographing them as people, and also these out of Aussies are gradually. They're not going to disappear necessarily physically, but they'll disappear in terms that they'll be wearing Adidas, and baseball caps, and their culture will gradually be sucked up into global village. We live in the digital world. As I said, they all have smartphones and baseball caps, unless you go far enough into the jungles, which is what I have to do.
Oh, that's a trend that we witness in the world, indeed.
Well, now with digital and cable and whatnot, MTV Asia is what did it. It used to be you go from country to country. Literally, you could go to Holland and have wooden shoes, right? You could go places, and then very specifically would dress and act a certain way. Now it's all homogenous. Basically, everybody's a homeboy.
In a way.
I could go into a village in the middle, not too far away from the city, and there would be posters on the wall. And can you guess who the posters would be?
Brad Pitt?
No. It'd be either Rambo, Madonna, or Michael Jackson.
Any of your photos of Madonna by any chance?
I only took one photo of Madonna. No.
Yes.
And it was never commercialized.
No.
Not into posters, anyways. And I never took a picture of Rambo or Michael Jackson.
That I definitely didn't see. Well,
I could have, I would have, but I never did. Actually, I never tried to really go that route. Madonna only happened because she came with a friend I was photographing. I wasn't even meant to photograph her.
it's interesting.
She hadn't even come out with her first. She had a tape and she played it, Borderline and Holiday. And I thought, oh, great, this should be great. And I had to dress her because she wasn't very stylish. And that's how it came about. I had a 30th birthday party being held at Club A, and I invited her to it, and I sat her next to Andy Warhol, and she just wouldn't say a word. She was very shy. Left early, and Andy was like, "Who's she?" I said, "She's the new girl. She's green." But she was not there. She became Madonna. She was a Kochek girl at the time.
Yeah.
She came from New Jersey. It's a lot of ambition. I have a lot of respect for her.
Oh. Not well. She's indeed a great artist.
And she has longevity.
That's also helps. Yeah. So speaking of Club 57 and the Falling Circle, you think that part of your career was that time and development of your career was meant to be taken a turn you actually later took with just distancing from New York whatsoever and going into a completely different part of the world, or it just wasn't accidental? Because you just mentioned you had an opportunity to photograph everybody, and indeed being in this circle you definitely could just pick and choose.
I did photograph basically only people that I liked and that I related to, and I didn't care how famous or who they were if I didn't relate to them. And I wasn't what I would consider a celebrity photographer. I wasn't a paparazzi. I just photographed people that I connected with. And eventually I thought the world doesn't need another picture of Madonna by me or Jodie Foster. I felt I needed to do something that was more relevant. And India tended to fit the picture more, almost a bit like Edward Curtis, photographing the Indians before they were put onto reservations in a way. I felt like I had a mission. It was like life's mission. I just got bored and tired of New York, and also New York changed. And as it started to change, become the way it has become, as I said, it's like I don't relate to it anymore. I felt been there, done that. I wasn't seeing things being done better. I saw things being rehashed and repeated, and I just lost interest.
Oh, that's indeed remarkably brave.
I was there from 78 to 98. So a good 20 solid years of being in it. I mean, right in the middle of it, not just kind of here. I was in it. But now you don't have to be in it to win it in New York. You can be. People sometimes don't even know I'm not here. I still get emails and Facebook.
What would be your advice for somebody who was shooting digital throughout all the time they was photographing and now looking to try themselves with film?
Well, I think even myself, if I was 18 years old and starting photography, I probably would go digital. It's easier, it's cheaper, it's more affordable, and it's faster. But obviously anyone who's done that and wants to go back to film, they must be looking for a sense of quality. They must feel like there's something missing, like people going from CD back to LPs. They're realizing that, yes, it's working, but it doesn't quite have the soul, the clarity that I want. And you have to be prepared that it's not going to happen overnight just because you bought a camera and you're reading the manual. I mean, it took me, as I said, about 5 years of hit and miss, to be able to actually get really what I consider a fine photograph, in terms of exposure. You have to learn your f-stops, you have to learn, your shutter speeds, you have to understand. It's not automatic, nothing. In other words, you have to get off the standby automatic pilot routine and actually think every step of the way, and you have to be responsible for any of your decisions and see whether they work or not, and you've got to question that. And it's a lot more involved, and you actually are honing a craft. I don't think you hone a craft when you pick up a digital camera and just click automatic and then fix it if it's not quite right with Photo Workshop. So it takes determination, it takes time, it takes dedication, it takes money. It's not cheap. I mean, I know many photographers, that sometimes they can't shoot because they don't have the film to follow through on the processing. The cameras are cheaper. That's one good thing now. A lot cheaper. But and even then, even when I could buy new cameras, I still always bought old Hasselblads because I didn't want the Hasselblads that had any plastic. And I always bought Hasselblads from the 60s and 70s. I still would. I still use them. I don't have modern Hasselblads. They're no different.
That's your camera of choice, as I understand.
I have two Hasselblads, and they're both from the 70s. And they have no plastic on them.
I can't think of the better...
I hate plastic. To me was one of the downfall of so many things. Everything is now out of era. Fake wood, plastic, everything.
I totally understand.
I don't mind plastic for the sake of being on a computer or technology, but when it's replacing something that was wood or leather or glass or whatever, it becomes plastic.
I totally understand where you're going.
That's 21st century.
Yeah.
So it just takes dedication and perseverance, and it's worth it. And there is a difference. There is a difference. Having something perfect because you made those decisions, it's the way you want it, not just because you pressed automatic and then fixed it on Facebook and fixed it on Photoshop and then spit it out of your computer.
So what would be the most rewarding part of this experience for somebody who would choose to switch to film?
The final product, and the sense that they actually really made that. They didn't just organize technology to create that.
Let's hope one of our viewers would make this decision based on...
I don't know. That's just, as I said, my perspective. But I don't blame them for trying digital first. I would too.
I personally work with digital, but I could
Yeah,
use
and
those
I also have this Omen magazine, and I feature... there is digital work that I really like. I like her work. And, I don't put it down, but it's quite different for me. And I would, I use digital, but only for my own websites and for this magazine. But I say in this magazine, every issue, there's a combination of digital and analog.
This is great. Okay. Thank you very much, Marcus. It was really a pleasure. We'll see you next time you would grace us with your presence.
Well, I'm here 3-4 times a year. So I'm here.